Good morning. So, hope you had a good weekend. So, today I'm going to focus on the gap and the gain. Now, what do I mean by that? I've been reading a great book by Dan Stevens, which is really good, called 10x Your Business, which is a really fascinating read if you want to know more. And anyway, so one thing he talks about is the gap and the gain. Now, what I talk about, I actually talk about this a lot, but I never actually articulated it as gap and gain, which is really interesting. So how often do you find yourself focusing on what you haven't done and how far you want to go and how far you've got to go? So the gap is when we focus so much on the gap between where we wish we were where we feel we should be and where we are right now. So how often do you feel overwhelmed and stressed and just questioning if you're up to it and thinking, will I ever make it? Whether it's in your business, whether it's in your work, whether it's at home, all sorts of stuff. We can have these conversations and it can disempower us. So how often do you feel disempowered, frustrated, annoyed with yourself? Or how much would you love to feel resilient and confident and like, yes, I've got it. I've got my great routine. I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm doing everything I can. I know I'm showing up with impact, influence, power, and passion. That's where we all want to be. And why is it important now? Because why do we want to feel that overwhelm and that questioning how good we are, etc.? It feels horrible, and then we overwork, and then we just stay longer hours working because we want, maybe if I do a bit more, it will make this happen. So we end up being very busy but not doing the right stuff. So I have been that person where I was frantically trying to work really hard in order to almost felt my business was a bit of a beast I was trying to control. And then it was just a question of like, oh, when's it going to work? And then suddenly you kind of find, oh, and then I found myself thinking, oh, I've got so much going on today. And I caught myself thinking, whoa, a few years ago, this would have been my dream day. Having lots of clients, which is amazing, supporting people that I really love supporting, and doing workshops, speaking on the stage. I'm speaking in the Excel in May, and all this stuff. I'm thinking, caught myself thinking, wow, this is what I've been aspired to getting and having and delivering and supporting. So why was I overwhelmed by it? So the teaching today is the gap is when we spend our time comparing ourselves, not necessarily comparing ourselves to others, although often that's the case. We find ourselves, oh, but they've only been in business, they've been in this role as director for so long and they seem to be doing so much better than me, or so forth. Or I've been in business so much longer and they seem to be earning much more than me. This is nothing about revenue, because where we get the joy is supporting others. Of course, revenue is important. Of course, we want to make sure we have a good lifestyle and can have the life we want for ourselves and our families. However, how much do we suggest that our success is purely on income? And hi, good morning, Mahamat from Istanbul. Fantastic, lovely to see you. So the gap is when we spend too much time focusing on what we haven't got. So the gain is looking back for evidence how often we have actually achieved more than we could ever imagine, and the successes we've had that we never expected. And often you'll find there's a theme of grabbing opportunity when we don't know what the outcome's going to be. And that takes a bit of courage. For me, definition of courage is we have no guarantee of the outcome. And another story that I can share about this is that when I was doing my theatre nursing course after my midwifery, I was invited to submit one of my assignments for a writer's award. No, I wasn't personally. The whole group, the whole course was invited. There was a writer's award, and we were all invited to submit an assignment for this award. Everyone said, no, I can't possibly do it. I'm not good enough, etc. And I thought, I don't think I'm good enough, but what do I, give it a go. Give it a go. For the price of a stamp, give it a go. Forgot it all about it, just sent it off, thought, oh, well, at least I've given it a go. Much to my amazement, about 3 months later, I got a call to say I'd won this national writers' competition. I was so shocked. And then found out that the award was going to a conference in San Francisco, a week, all paid, hotel, accommodation, flights, the whole thing. I was amazed. And we had the most extraordinary week. And not only that, they gave me the money for the flight. So actually for business class, and they put it in my bank account, and I elected, right, rather than go business class, I'll take my husband, and they agreed that was absolutely fine. So he came with me, and we had the most amazing, actually 2 weeks in the end, because we went to the Napa Valley beforehand, but it was absolutely incredible. And that is always been, always in my office, I've got a picture, San Francisco Bridge, because we drove over San Francisco Bridge, which is one of my vision board for many, many years. And it was incredible. So just have a think about what evidence have you got from the past that shows you absolutely have got it for the future? And then you can have a really good day, and I'll see you tomorrow. So remember, when you're focusing, just focus on the gain and not the gap. Take care. Bye.